Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's time to return to business as usual. We're going into more rookie deep dives, rookie evaluations, and we're getting a little later into the draft class. We're getting a little bit deeper into day three now. And the deeper you go, of course, the less there is to say and the less there is to really concern yourself with, right? We're now out of the top 150 with the last guy we went over, Woolen, and now this guy. So you understand that you're kind of buying a lottery ticket here. Maybe the odds aren't that bad, but you know that a decent percentage of the time you're going to get somebody who never does anything for you. A decent percentage of the time on top of that, you're getting a guy who's just going to do a couple of okay things for you. The odds of you finding a true difference maker here are slim. And one thing I really liked about the Woolen pick is that I think there's a real chance of a difference maker there. Maybe it's like 15%, but I could absolutely see Woolen becoming a Pro Bowl caliber player, if not all pro, if the light bulb goes on. And that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for late in the draft. I want to have some reason to believe that the guy could become something much more than his draft position would indicate. So, with this next pick, the pick we're going to talk about today, I have the exact opposite reaction that I did with Woolen. Tyreke Smith is a player who seems to have a very high chance of being a good pro, making some plays, doing some things, showing he belongs on the field. But in all likelihood, I think you're looking at another, and this is the example I kept using with him, Cassius Marsh. Not in terms of play style or how they get things done on the field, but just in terms of overall impact. I look at Tyreke Smith and I see a guy who will make the roster, will get on the field, make some plays. Maybe by year two or year three, he's giving you a few hundred snaps a season, making, 4 or 5 sacks, maybe a few additional plays in the backfield. But I don't see him ever making a Pro Bowl. I don't see him ever having a double digit sack season. I don't see him as anything more than just a guy. Maybe a little bit more than just a guy, but not a whole lot. And that's fine. You need players like that. But he definitely doesn't excite me the way that a guy like a Tariq Woolen did. Honestly, I don't even think he excites me as much as our two seventh round picks, which we'll be getting to in the next couple of days here. But nevertheless, let's talk about Tyreke Smith the best we can. So he played college at Ohio State for 4 years. Obviously, Ohio State played in a lot of big games and had a lot of success overall over that 4 year period. So he was part of a great defense. Of course, that also means you're surrounded by great talent that is making your job a little bit easier compared to somebody playing on a team that didn't have that. Edge rusher, of course. In this defense, he figures to be a defensive end, an outside linebacker, depending on the alignment. He's 22 years old, and I don't think he turns 23 until February, so he's relatively young. His measurables are basically all completely forgettable. Compared to other edge players that have gone through the combine over the last, I think, 20 plus years, I can't remember how long the calculator goes back. His height is just about average, 6 foot 3.5, 45th percentile. He's below average in weight, 254 pounds. Although if he's going to be doing outside linebacker stuff, that's good. You want him to be a little lighter so he can move in space better. So that's a good thing. Arm length, 33.3 inches, so 39th percentile. Arms are a little bit shorter than the average, but still longer than like Mafe, for instance. Hands are big, however, for an edge player, almost the 80th percentile at 10 and a quarter. His 10-yard split was okay, 1.65, right near the average. His 40 time is a little below average, 4.86, which, given the fact that he's also smaller than the average edge, it's not exactly what you're looking for. But I've seen him make some plays with speed on a football field that seems to be beyond the 4.86, so it's not the end of the world. You would want something a little bit better if you're only going to be weighing in at 255, though. His vertical jump was nice, 34 inches, 60th percentile, and his broad jump was also pretty good, 117 inches, 59th percentile. So there's nothing here that really stands out to you, right? His hands are the closest thing to standing out to you. It's just, everything's just kind of okay, and this is noteworthy because the first group of rookies we looked at, all of them had at least one testing score that made you go, holy moly, we have something really special here potentially. There's nothing like that with this guy here. He's not super fast, he's not super strong, he's not super quick or agile or anything. He's okay in most areas, passable in others, and troublesome in a few, but overall, he's kind of unremarkable as a prospect. So I'm happy we got him in the 5th round because some people had him in the 3rd, because there is some positive stuff about this guy. Getting him in the 5th round completely removes any sort of risk you take on, but we're not getting off to the best of starts with this stack of test scores, I don't think. So, just going over his career real quick, 2018, he played in 7 games. He really didn't do that much for OSU this year. He had 3 tackles in a game against Tulane. That was his season high. He had no sacks. He had no tackles for loss, no passes defense, no forced fumbles, nothing. He didn't play that much. It wasn't until 2019 when he started to get a little more involved and actually started making some, leaving a big footprint on some of these games for the Buckeyes. He played in 8 games total. He had a couple of notable games. He had a 2-tackle, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 sack game against Cincinnati, who was really good that year. He had 3 tackles, including 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss against Maryland. And those were the games he played that stood out. And because of his efforts in 2019, he did make the academic All-Big Ten team, which, I mean, it's not a huge pool of players they're pulling from when they're building the academic All-Big Ten team, but it's a start. And for whatever it's worth, Ohio State did play good teams. They played the Bearcats, they played Wisconsin twice, and they played Clemson in the, I think, their bowl game. So Ohio State was getting to cut their teeth against really good opposition. So Tyreke Smith was getting to do that as well. So that's good. Good start. 2020 was the COVID year, so Tyreke missed out on a lot of potential experience. He played or recorded stats in 5 games. His best game was probably Michigan State. 3 tackles, including 1 for loss and 1 sack against Michigan State. Ohio State played 2 of their games against ranked teams, Northwestern and Clemson, and he again made academic All-Big Ten. So, through 3 years, we're not looking at a whole lot here, right? Well, 2021 is the main reason why we're talking about him as a player that expects to get some burn in the NFL, why he was a 5th-round draft pick instead of going undrafted. So, let's take a look at 2021. He played in 10 games. He had a couple of very notable games. 1 game against Penn State, he had 5 tackles, including 1 for loss, a sack, and a forced fumble. He also had a good game against Nebraska, 5 tackles, 1 for loss, 1 sack, and a pass deflection at the line of scrimmage. And again, I should point out, a lot of his games were against ranked competition. Oregon, Michigan State, Michigan, and Utah. All teams that ended up in the top 25. So, for his efforts in 2021, not only did he again make academic All-Big Ten, he made 2nd team All-Big Ten for the conference. So even though his stats were not gaudy, and if you go look at his stats right now, you're going to find an unimpressive slate of numbers. He didn't really do anything in terms of the box score that would even get anybody's attention. But they recognized that he was doing more than that, and they gave him 2nd team. And when I say doing more than that, I want to go into more detail on that because this is important. This is why he's interesting. As you can see, we just went over his whole career in college, and nothing there is all that compelling, right? This guy has 7 career sacks. This guy has his season high for his single season high for sacks is 3. Like sometimes you might look at those numbers and go, why is he drafted? So let's talk about that. The things that you notice about Tyreke when you watch him play are that he moves well laterally. He's got a very long lateral stride, which is going to help him when he plays against the run. Going to help him containing stuff on the backside. He's good at utilizing his length to enhance power on his punches. Like he uses, not that he's super tall or anything, but he's good at utilizing his length to like just uncoil when he's at the point of the punch. trying to beat his blocker. He's great at going from the block shed to the tackle very quickly. I said that about Mafe, and I think it's true here as well. If he can get off the block, he quickly segues into the tackle, which is, of course, a positive. His mentality and his aggression and his just general motor, it's all there. His pass rush, he comes at you hard, and he comes at you with a relentlessness to try to get to the quarterback. He has a good understanding of leverage. This is a smart player. He wins with his brains. And he has a good understanding of how to utilize things like pad level to win battles. He knows how to use the finer points of technique to get the edge. This is not a super fast guy. It's not a super explosive guy. But he can beat people to the edge using technique. Inside-out moves. Things like that. He's got a nice swim move. He has a lot of impact beyond the box score stats. And this is the most interesting part here. This is why he was drafted. Tyreke Smith has 4 sacks over the last 2 years, but he has a 20% plus pressure rate in each of the last 2 years, including last year it was like 22.3. He has 36 quarterback pressures over the last 2 seasons in 15 games played, I think. So you're looking at a guy who's getting 2 or more QB pressures a game on average. So what you are looking at with Tyreke Smith is like the Jadeveon Clowney thing. Clowney is a game wrecker. He disrupts plays. He gets into the backfield. He makes life hard for the offense, but he doesn't finish the play. You need somebody else to be able to finish those plays. Hopefully Boye Mafe. But Tyreke Smith, as of right now, is a guy who starts the play. He gets midway through the play. He's doing everything right, and then, couldn't make the play. He's got a pretty good jump at the snap. He's got good variety to his rush package. You can watch him rushing the quarterback, and you'll see a bunch of different types of maneuvers from him in terms of inside out, outside in. He's good with his hands. He's got good swipe moves. He's got good, like I said, his swim move is good. There are all kinds of different ways in which he gets to the quarterback. Ohio State did drop him back into coverage a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. He does have some experience dropping into the flats. He is a high-effort player, like I said earlier. Great fit for a hybrid defense, I think, because he is so light. He can do that outside linebacker thing reliably. I think he's going to fit in well in that role. Like I said, he's got all kinds of different things he can do with his hands to beat linemen. He's solid against the run. Tyreke Smith, I would definitely highlight the fact that he's a very heady player, knows how to use technique, knows how to use his brain, knows how to use all these things in order to get things accomplished on a football field. So there are some things that I'm not crazy about. As an NFL player, you do want to be the one who's able to make plays more so than just set up plays for other people. But pressures matter. QB pressures matter. They are important. So a guy who can generate multiple pressures a game, which he did do at the college level, and we see pressure rate is something that translates. It's definitely valuable. Okay, so that being said, it has to be noted that he's not a great finisher. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about here, on his last 36 quarterback pressures, he has 4 sacks. So 8 times out of 9, he's getting QB pressure, but he's not getting the sack. He's not actually finishing the play. If you look at other pass rushers throughout the NFL, most of them, they're getting a sack every 4 or 5 or maybe 6 QB pressures, I would say. So 1 out of every 9 tells you that while he is generating disruption, he could stand to learn how to finish a little bit better. Maybe he never will. Clowney's made a lot of money in the NFL just being a guy who gets pressure but doesn't finish the job very much. He ran into a lot of injuries in his college time. I mean, you can take a look that he's never had a season where he's played in more than 10 games. He played in 10 games once. Some of this was because of COVID, but he never played a full season, which is definitely a concern going forward because it's not just one big injury that he might be past. It seems to be a recurring issue, kind of like what we saw with Chris Carson, where he just kept getting injured different ways. And at the end of the day, you just have to say he's brittle and he can't stay on a football field. The main thing, though, for me would be he needs to commit. Excuse me. I notice a lot of indecisiveness in his rush, a lot of inefficiency. And sometimes it seems like he's trying to do 3 different pass rush moves at the same time when he just needs to pick one and go with it. So he flails back and forth between a bunch of different pass rush moves, and all it ends up doing is wasting time that he needs to get to the quarterback. He's not great at change of direction stuff. His turns and his change of direction are slow, which could be a bit of an issue if he's playing outside linebacker, which is probably what he's going to need to do because he is undersized. He did not have a very good... he had a not so great 3-cone, I think, at his pro day. He was often neutralized by better offensive linemen, like he went up against Daniel Falele in the Minnesota game, and they took him out. Didn't really notice him at all. He's not as strong as you would like either. He's got decent power, especially at the start of the rep, but getting second half power, like the second half of the rep, you don't really see it so much. Not as much as you would like. Like I said earlier, nothing jumps out measurable-wise. His first step at the snap is good, but it's not great. Sometimes he should be utilizing his momentum to push him forward, but instead he gets a little too vertical, I think, is the best way I've seen it put. He should be focusing on getting up the field, but instead he kind of gets too upright, and that wastes time. It wastes his momentum. It wastes his spring at the snap. So a lot of that stuff is things that can be worked on, but I don't know. I just look at Tyreke Smith and I see a guy who's going to collect maybe 4 to 5 sacks a year, like I said, Cassius Marsh, maybe like a Jacob Martin. Now, those players have a place in the NFL for sure. Like Jacob Martin, I wouldn't mind bringing him back here whenever he shakes free next time. He was doing some things, and then we swapped him in the Clowney trade. But they're not really moving the needle in any significant way, and I don't see Tyreke Smith as a needle mover. But there's enough stuff to like here to believe that he is going to leave a footprint on the NFL. His pressure rate should translate at least somewhat. You should see him disrupting things in the backfield. Now, I just don't see it ever being for more than like 5, maybe 6 sacks a year. And that's fine. That's fine. He's a 5th round pick. Not expecting the world from him. But yeah, there's just a very, very different reaction I have to this pick versus the pick of Tariq Woolen. That's all I got for Smith here. He's a decent prospect. There's some stuff to like, but seems like there's a relatively low ceiling. And it helps kind of give you a little bit of security in case the Boye Mafe thing goes upside down, which is possible. All right, I'll see you guys maybe later today, maybe tomorrow. Probably going to catch me on Twitch tonight either way. Go Hawks. See y'all later.